In a pretty dysfunctional Congress, we finally did something I think that really will matter in a positive way. By unanimous consent, the Senate agreed to send $225 million worth of assistance through Iron Dome to Israel. In other words, we just passed a appropriations bill that will provide more missiles to the Iron Dome program that's protecting the Israeli population from utter destruction. Today is a very bad day in Israel. Just put yourself in their shoes. You agreed to a ceasefire with an organization who wants to wipe you off the map, that's caused destruction all over Gaza, that has fired thousands of rockets at your civilian population, that's been engaged in terrorist activity for years. You agreed to a ceasefire for 3 days to clean up the battlefield and try to find a way forward in Cairo. Within hours of the ceasefire, an Israeli unit is apparently attacked by a suicide bomber. A follow-on assault results in an Israeli soldier being captured and taken into the tunnels. That's the initial report. That's what I'm been told. If that needs to be corrected, we will correct it. But it's my belief that's what happened. So this action by the Senate today in a bipartisan fashion could not have come at a better time. Last night I felt pretty low. We could not get it through last night, and I can promise you it did. People in Israel felt low. They felt disappointed. And I can understand wanting to pay for things. There's nothing wrong with that. And I just want to congratulate Senator Coburn for being a fiscal hawk, bipartisan, working with people, trying to get us to be more responsible for money, but also getting the big picture and letting this move forward. So the message today from the United States Senate needs to be sent, and it was sent. Not only are we going to give you more missiles, we're going to be a better friend. We're going to fight for you in the International Court of Public Opinion. We're going to fight for you in the United Nations. It's becoming increasingly more anti-Israeli. I am working on a resolution, hopefully to be cleared today, condemning what happened last night. And as to the Palestinian people, you're not our enemy. We stand by Israel, but we'd be glad to stand with you and help you construct a better life. But you have to do one thing. You have to reject Hamas, and you've got to find a better way. The day you do that is the day that things will change for the children of Palestine, of Gaza. And until that day comes, you're going to have more misery. Final thought. Please, no more urging Israel to do what they're already doing. No more messages from this administration or any political leader in the United States urging Israel to be more cautious and to do more to limit civilian casualties. I know you're well-meaning when you say that, but Israel gets it. It's not lost upon the Israeli military. When a civilian is killed in a crossfire, that's a bad thing. But when you urge Israel to do more, can you imagine how it is received in Israel when they're under siege themselves and doing everything beyond what I think any other country would do in like circumstance? So now is not the time for the Department of Defense in the United States or the President and his administration to call Israel out on civilian casualties and urge them to do more. Now's the time for our administration to speak with one voice alongside the Congress and condemn Hamas.
We all know that, unfortunately, the latest attempt at a ceasefire has failed after a short period of time. Initial reports are that an Israeli soldier has been captured. We know the implications of that for the future and the demands that will be made by Hamas and other terrorist organizations for the release of that soldier. As we speak, hundreds, if not more, rockets will be raining down on the nation of Israel. And if it were not for Iron Dome, the situation would be devastation, chaos, and mass casualties in Israel. thanks to Iron Dome, which was a U.S.-Israeli project, the people of Israel are relatively safe. But they were running out of missiles, they were running out of capability, and there's still thousands of more rockets that can be fired from Gaza. So from a practical standpoint, this was an urgent need. We could not go out for a month or 5 weeks and not act to help the Israelis replenish their supply of Iron Dome missiles. But perhaps more importantly than that, the action of the Congress today and the President will send a message to the people of Israel that we are with them, that we will stand with them, and that we will provide them with what they need in order to defend themselves. I would remind you, Iron Dome is defensive, not offensive weapons. And so if we had failed to provide them with its additional capabilities, it would have been a severe blow to the morale of the Israeli government and people. So I'm pleased that in a bipartisan fashion we are acting today. Questions? Yes?
Is funding offset, and what changed
No.
since last night? How did you convince Senator Coburn to not approve?
We threatened certain individuals that if they didn't go along, they'd have to hire someone to start their car in the morning. Actually, we just had continued the conversation, and also many of our Israeli friends also tried to make it clear of how necessary this action was.
Well, Senator Coburn is consistent. He is trying to bring fiscal discipline to a body that's lost its way, $17 trillion in debt. We could have found $225 million, but we chose not to. But in defense of the body, this has been a relatively fast-moving national security event. And here's my statement about Senator Coburn. If this is not an emergency, what will be? If we say no now, even though how well-intended we may be about our fiscal house being in disarray, it will be perceived as backing away from a friend in need. I cannot think of a more devastating signal to send than the Congress leaving town without replenishing the missile supply. That would hurt the Israeli cause as much as any single act an enemy could do, to have doubt about your friend. So to Senator Coburn's credit, he thought about this and he came through. Today is the start of a new relationship based on a long-standing relationship. Today we've turned a corner in America. No more efforts to try to have a moral equivalency as to what's going on. We all understand that when a Palestinian child is killed and when a house is destroyed, it's devastating to that family. But Israel is doing everything they can to lessen that, knowing that the enemy embeds itself in UN schools, hospitals, and mosques. I've got a video of fire coming from a hospital, and they allowed a 2-day notice to get out of that hospital. And when Israel attacked the hospital, there were secondary explosions that went on for over a minute. It was an arms depot. So, to our friends in Israel, this is the clearest message we know how to send. We're dysfunctional when it comes to governing our own nation, but we came together to help you. And here's the last thought. Would anybody be dying in Gaza if it were not for Hamas? Would they be a war if it were not for Hamas's desire to wipe Israel off the map? I would say they would not be.
Yes, Dan.
I just have a question on a different subject, particularly for both of you, but particularly for you as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. What's your reaction to the report that your staffers were spied on?
I'm very disturbed. There's two issues here. One is the whole issue of torture and what went on during those years, in my view, were shameful. Because actions that were taken that clearly violated the Geneva Conventions, of which we are signatory as far as treatment of prisoners is concerned. And we outlawed that. It was an amendment of ours on the Defense Authorization Bill that was outlawed. The President signed the bill. So although it was important to go back and review the exact things that happened and have the Congress and the American people understand it so that we would never do it again, is my hope and belief. Then there's another issue here, and that is that a legally constituted carrying out of the Senate's responsibilities of the Senate Intelligence Committee, they were carrying out an investigation. That is not just it's not their pleasure, it's their responsibility to do that. That's what Congress is supposed to do. That's what our Constitution calls for. So clearly, without a doubt now, the director of the CIA has, quote, apologized. Their work was spied upon and maybe perhaps even impeded by another agency and another branch of government who vociferously denied that that was taking place on a number of occasions. This is, to me, the utmost seriousness. What did the director of the CIA know, and when did he know it? And what action did he take if he knew about it? And if he didn't know about it, why in the world didn't he know that people under his direct area of responsibility were violating the fundamental barriers of constitutional authority and responsibility? I think it's of the utmost seriousness. I think I'd like to give them a chance to respond how this happened, why it happened, etc. But if we don't hold the director of the CIA responsible for this, then I don't know where responsibility could lie.
Can I just ask this more broadly? You've been around for a few years. Do you ever imagine something like this happening?
This is out of one of those really grade B movies, where the agency of government goes after some usually rather attractive young woman who has broken the found out information that she has to be exterminated for accidental death orchestrated. This is out of a movie, and I really never believed. I never believed that an agency of government, particularly with the capabilities of the CIA, would carry out such actions, which is a clearly unconstitutional. It's in some ways it's worse than criminal. How can we be confident that our responsibilities are able to be carried out without interference from the executive branch of government? And the way that, frankly, the presidential spokesman yesterday kind of just dismissed it out of hand, that is even more appalling to me. And I did not mean to sound sexist in my remark about bad movies. I apologize. If I apologize, a certain attractive individual is usually targeted by in these bad movies by the evil influences of the federal government. And now we are seeing something that really is out of a bad movie. So I not only is it serious, but the way that the administration seems to be just dismissing it out of hand is even more alarming. Go ahead.
What do you want to happen next?
Can I make number one?
You could answer that question
yeah.
as well. And what do you want to happen? Hearings, investigations?
Okay, so number one, let's let the dust settle and find out how in March the CIA director said it would just be beyond the pale for her to believe this happened. A few months later, well, I guess it did. That's not a vote of confidence in the CIA director. If you tell the public that something, an accusation against your agency is beyond the pale and some independent group says, well, oh, by the way, you actually did what you were charged with, and you don't know, that makes me wonder what else doesn't he know. I've long since believed we need a new CIA director. This is just the last in a string of events. This CIA has brought the proposition forward, if you could kill the 5 top al-Qaeda leaders, that would be the end of al-Qaeda. So I just don't really have a lot of confidence in the CIA director. About this particular event about torture, There may be a minority report suggesting that we did gain actionable intelligence from waterboarding and other techniques that are prohibited by the Geneva Convention. I want to disassociate myself with that view. Anything that we gained, we lost more. Now, the average American is wondering, why do we care, or why should we care about how you treat a detainee, particularly a radical Islamist? You have ISIS cutting people's heads off who are attending church and putting them on a power line. You've got all kind of barbaric things going on in Syria and Iraq. That's not the standard for America. I've been a military lawyer for over 31 years. This man has actually been held by a vicious enemy who could care less about any rules. The goal of Senator McCain and myself is to make sure that we don't compare ourselves to them, that we compare ourselves to who we are and the Geneva Convention that we all adhere to and actually lead the way. So when this report comes out, if it suggests that gaining good information made everything all right, I reject that, because in the effort of gaining information, you violated, I think, the spirit of who we are. As to the individuals involved, they should be protected because this came from the top level of the government. And to the people in the Bush administration, I understand being under siege, not wanting another 9/11. We all make mistakes, but America is a great place because we air our dirty laundry. As to what should happen next, where is the Congress? Now, I've been pretty forward-leaning about America engagement in the world. It's one thing to have a program to detect a gathering storm that may lead to another attack. Radical Islamists are in our backyard, they're here already, and they're trying to penetrate America. If you want to reform the NSA program to make it more transparent and to protect privacy, that makes sense to me. But what the CIA did is not equivalent. The CIA tried to protect itself. The CIA apparently tried to gain information from a congressional investigation to mold the outcome to protect itself. Where is the outrage on Capitol Hill?
Could I just quickly just say, there needs to be an objective investigation composed of individuals that have the trust and confidence of the American people. Now, exactly what that is, I think we should discuss. I am a great admirer of my former colleague, Senator Bai, but a accountability review board is not appropriate for an issue of this magnitude. And finally, again, the minority report will say that certain information was gained. First of all, I reject those on their face. But second of all, even if there was some truth to it, the damage done to the United States of America's reputation is incalculable.
So can I clarify, do you want a special
disagree
panel?
with the minority report?
I disagree with the minority report in that the minority report may say that there was some information gained. That cannot compare to the damage that it did to the reputation and image of the United States of America, and increase the ability of jihadists and extremists to recruit people to want to destroy the United States of America and everything we stand for. It is a stain on America's honor.
Senators, the Justice Department has already said that they're going to decline to prosecute in this matter. There were colleagues of yours, Senator Udall yesterday was floating the notion of a special prosecutor.
As I said, we would be glad to discuss some way of a investigation conducted by people who have credibility with the American people, whether that's inside the Congress, whether it's a special prosecutor, whether it's whatever it is. We would be amenable to most any form, as long as it's credible with the American people in Congress. It can't come from inside the agency whose director directly lied to the American people on at least two occasions that I know of about this whole issue.
And can I say something about this CIA? Mike Morrell, I know, misled the Congress about what happened in Benghazi. When it came to who changed the talking points, he told myself, Senator McCain, and Ayotte that's a mystery. We don't know. Maybe the FBI did it. Now we know that he changed the talking points. So you've got the deputy director, acting CIA director, misleading Congress on at least two occasions. Now you got the CIA director not knowing, apparently, that his organization was breaking into computers regarding an investigation of his agency. To me, this is a very big deal, and an apology is not enough.
But Senators, there's an entire select committee on Benghazi talking points. Isn't this considerably more serious than?
I think in some respects, of course, human lives were lost in Benghazi, and that is obviously the ultimate responsibility we have. But this is different in that this has got to do with the fundamentals of our Constitution and the division of power and the checks and balances that are supposed to govern the way, that are supposed to be the dictates of how we govern this country. And if you have something like this going on, how can the American people be confident that our intelligence agencies are carrying out their constitutional responsibilities and not acting like a rogue agency? Case, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to, that we're anticipating that this broader report is going to be declassified in the coming days. I just wondered, is there anything that you can talk to us about now that you're concerned about?
You know, I have not read it, but I've been told, that there is they will cite several instances where the information gained led to the foiling of terrorist plots. One, I've heard counter information about these allegations, but I can't cite them until they're made public. And the other aspect of this that the Minority Report doesn't really get into is that when someone is enduring physical pain, they will tell you anything they think you want to hear in order to have that pain stop. So they're saying about some accurate information. They also got a plethora of inaccurate information, totally false information, because they wanted it stopped, and that's understandable.
I don't want to get too personal, but are you speaking from personal experience when you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Can I go back to something you said a minute ago? We're amenable to, who is we? Is it the committee, the two of you?
Two of us.
The two of us. We were asked the two of us, but we were already having conversation with a lot of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle. This is pretty bipartisan. You got Udall and the senator from New Mexico and others that are outraged by this as well as on our side of the aisle. What we need to do is have a conversation as how the best way to have a full and complete investigation conducted in a manner that the American people can trust its outcome.
And a process question, you're away for 5.5 weeks. I mean, will there be a conference? Are you going to wait till September 9th to?
I hope not. I hope that we could have communications and consensus, particularly amongst those who are heavily engaged in these issues on both sides of the aisle.
The first thing you got to do is create desire. We've got to create desire among the body, not let this pass. We've got to create desire to make sure that this is not, the apology is not the end of the inquiry here because of the ramifications that Senator McCain indicated. And back to the torture issue. We live in difficult times. It's in the difficult times that you have to hang on to your values. I believe we can win this war by being good Americans. I will take the fight to the enemy. I think y'all completely understand that I'm forward-leaning, but I don't want to lose being a good American in the process. It is actually what we bring to the fight is our ultimate trump card. There's not a shortage of people who will cut your head off in the world. There's a shortage of people who will stand up, even in difficult times, for the right thing. So the reason I've been so passionate about it, I've never been tortured. I'm a support person. I've been a military lawyer, but I understand the values of my client, the Air Force.
I have been tortured by having to associate
Absolutely.
myself with Senator Graham
And he
on
has.
too many occasions.
And that probably won't end anytime soon, but I just really want to reinforce this point. It is a strength of America, not a weakness, that we will give you due process, that you will get tried in a court of law. You'll have a chance to speak in your defense, and that if we capture somebody, it becomes about us, not about them. And the way we treat detainees can mold the battlefield. When we're abusive in the eyes of the world, you turn the people you're trying to persuade against you. When you do it right, they see in you a friend and an ally. I've seen this in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've seen detainee operations poorly handled that created a backlash that put our soldiers at risk. I saw a reform system that made people confident that America really is different.
Can I
One
just
more.
one more on the
One more,
question at
quick.
hand? I'd go back to Israel and Iron Dome briefly. Can you just address, how do you think that Secretary Kerry has done in his handling of trying to negotiate this ceasefire?
I think this first attempts by bringing in parties that are clearly not unbiased was a predictable total failure. We wish him well, we want him to succeed, but the results speak for themselves.
Well, you know, Senator Kerry is full of commitment and passion. That's a noble quality. He is trying to make the world a better place. But quite frankly, he's tone deaf at times. How could you take the Qatari-Turkey plan when the Turkish Prime Minister is equating Israel to being the Nazis, and put that forward to the Israeli cabinet, not even consult Egypt, who is a real player in this? I think it was a huge mistake, but we all make mistakes. The question is, have we learned from it? And I think we're back on track now, but this latest episode, look what we do when our soldiers are captured. You know, we want to get them all back, and there's got to be a balance. Israel will clean out of jail. They'll release 1,000 people to get one Israeli soldier back, but they'll do more too. They may go the other way this time. They may clean out Gaza. So my point is that yesterday or this morning was a turning point in this war, and America needs to be firmly in Israel's camp. And John Kerry, President Obama, and every member of Congress needs to knock off urging Israel to be more cautious when their entire state of the nation is at risk. They are cautious. They are plenty cautious, Secretary Kerry. Hamas is not. They cheat. They lie.